Hello, my beautiful friends. I am Laurel Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and fall asleep, all while deepening in your connection with your beautiful team of angels who love you so. If we're meeting for the first time, I am an angelic practitioner, a spiritual teacher, and an encourager of souls. And my favorite thing in the world is helping you connect with the angels and also helping you open to the beauty of all that you are. And during my daytime hours, I do this through one-on-one angel sessions, soul mentoring, and a variety of classes designed to inspire your spirit. And you can learn more about that at my website, illuminatingsouls.com, where you can also sign up for my daily inspiration email blast, where I will send you an inspiring email every weekday. But for now, the angels and I are here to bring you love and to help you rest. So as most of you know, this podcast is born out of my love of sleep podcasts and my love of the angels too. It is a mashup of my two favorite forms of self-care. I have been listening to sleep podcasts for years, and curling up in bed and picking a podcast to listen to has really become this sweet and gentle moment in my day when my whole beingness, my body and my mind and my spirit recognize that it is time to go to sleep. I'm a big believer in the power of rituals and consistency, and getting ready for bed is one of mine. I typically turn down the bed about an hour or so before it's time to crawl in. And then when I am ready for bed, I can just slip right in underneath the covers. And then I put in my earbuds because they don't bother me when I sleep. And I select an episode from one of the several podcasts that I listen to. And I turn the volume down relatively low, so it doesn't have to be as loud as, let's say, if I was listening to an audiobook and wanted to pay attention, I turn it down a little lower than that so it's not so obvious and it demands my attention. But it's there as an invitation to listen. And my recommendation, if you're new to the world of sleep podcasts, is to give it a few tries. It may not work for you right away, but what I have found is learning to listen to a sleep podcast is a bit like building a relationship. Your consciousness will grow more comfortable with the sound of my voice and the rhythm and the content. And it almost becomes this Pavlovian experience where this becomes a gateway for sleep and for rest. There is so much love imbued into this podcast for you. It is not just the sound of my voice, but it is the love of the angels that is streaming through for you. And this vibration, this energy, is very compatible with sleep. when I used to do my angel circles and I would be channeling messages from Josephus, that's the group of guides that I channel, people would find themselves growing very tired, and the guides would laugh. They would say, "It is not because we are boring. It is because the energy is higher here." And sometimes acclimating to the higher energy is easier when you rest and fall asleep. So I find this energy to be so wonderful when I am seeking to fall asleep. I listen to my own podcast for that reason. And so if you're giving this a try as a partner for sleep, just give it a little bit of time. My experience of sleep podcasts is they provide a bridge for our conscious mind to have something to subtly focus upon as it drifts off into the mystery of sleep. And if you are one who listens during the daytime, because I know many of you do that as well, it is my blessing to keep you company as you go about your day or night. So whenever you're tuning in and however you choose to use this podcast, my hope is that this podcast can serve as an instrument of love and inspiration and companionship for you. It is truly a great blessing to spend this time with you. And I am so grateful for our time together. So I invite you to take some deep breaths in and out, as the angels invite us to call ourselves forward into the heart of God. And I'm going to take a deep breath in and out with you. There is such beautiful energy streaming forward for this episode. It feels calming. It feels quiet. Feels gentle. And so just allow this energy to meet you where you are. You don't have to do anything. Just be present and let the angels do the heavy lifting here. And I will say, just in case you're hearing it, there seems to be a little extra ambient noise in my neighborhood this morning. It's early morning as I record this, but here in the US, we just set our clocks back. So even though it is still early morning, I suspect that much of the world has woken up earlier than usual. So if you do hear any ambient noise, just let it fade into the background. If anything is loud, I will edit it out. And invite you to get comfortable in your bed in whatever way works best for you, whether you wrap yourself up in the blankets like a burrito, or you tuck the blankets into the end of the bed, so it's like a cool envelope that welcomes you into coziness. Whether you use lots of pillows or one pillow, or you sleep on your back or on your side or on your stomach, just get comfortable and let your body know that it has permission to relax. You have done enough for this day, and you are worthy of good rest. And so I'm going to call the angels in to join us here. They are already here, but I love the ritual of calling them in. And just a sweet reminder that you can always call them in also. Whenever you need an extra wave of love, all you have to do is say, hey, angels, I could use some help here, and they will be with you. So beautiful, angels on high, I invite you to join us here. And I ask that you infuse this space with waves of love, waves of healing and light and goodness and service to each of our beloveds who are listening now. And I ask that you clear our energy fields through the heart of God, clearing away anything that does not belong to us, anything that is no longer serving our highest and best good. And angels, I ask that you assist each one of us in coming into a deeper space of balance, feeling the beauty of our spirits and helping us to remember who we are as divine beings in human form. So, dear ones, just take some nice breaths in and imagine and visualize, allow it to be so that the angels are filling the room that you are in with a soft pink light that is filled with love for you. And just breathe. And if you'd like, this soft pink light can travel to those you love, those who you carry in your heart, and the angels will send this missive of love to them in your honor. So just take a deep breath in as this love ripples throughout the timeline of your life. You don't have to do anything. This is not your personal energy that is being transmitted. It is angelic love that is timeless and limitless. So you just breathe and allow this love to ripple forth. And the angels are acknowledging the intensity of the transits that we are navigating. As I record this, it is early November 2022, and I realize you may be listening to this far beyond this initial broadcast date. But in this moment of this recording, the energies have a tremendous intensity to them. So you may be feeling unsettled. You may be feeling a bit more tired than usual. And just take some deep breaths in and allow the angels to help you balance your energy. And it may seem like I'm always talking about how intense the energies are, and I have a sweet story I want to share with you. This is not the bedtime story yet, so that will come soon. But years ago, it must have been somewhere around 2012, when all the hype was about the 2012 portal, and the energies were very intense. And in one of my angel circles, someone asked Josephus and the Wisdom Council, when will the energies settle down? And they said, well, we have good news and bad news. The bad news is they're not settling down. Energy is always changing based upon what is happening in the collective, what is happening in the universe. And so you will never go back to what once was. But here's the good news. You are an ever-evolving being. You are a resilient being. You are a vibrational being. And you are forever acclimating to the energies that are infusing this world. So when you feel an uptick in intensity, it simply means you must create a bit of space and time to rest and acclimate, because you will. And that wisdom has always stayed with me. As you can tell, even by looking at the past 10 years of life, we are in a time of rapid expansion and rapid changes. And I affirm that each of us is an instrument of light. And we have been designed to calibrate and find our way forward. So if you're feeling the intensity, just take a breath and let it go. It's okay. Your greater soul, your angels, your team of light, the essence of all that you are, is helping to calibrate to the shifts that are taking place. And you are one of those who has opened up to the wisdom of your soul and your spirit. And you are being cared for. And you are being loved. And you are being supported as you move through these experiences that you are in. So take a deep breath in and breathe in the love. Your angels are aware of all that is transpiring for you. They are aware of what is in your heart. They are aware of your truth, and they meet you here with profound love and compassion for everything you are experiencing. And they are infusing your path with love. So just take a deep breath in and allow yourself to be wrapped in this love, which is gentle and soft and filled with light for you. And even though we speak of the intensity of the energy, this world is also filled with such beauty every single moment. And we can, each of us, make a conscious choice to focus on the beauty, even if it is just for a few minutes each day. Listen to the songs of the birds as they wake up to the morning. Spend some time under a blue sky, or even in a blustery wind, and bring yourself into reach of the beauty of this world, and allow the beauty of this world to serve as your medicine. I find it to be so helpful to spend some time in this way. It helps to center me. It helps me to feel into the greater light that is always with us. So just take another few deep breaths in, allowing to flow to you as it helps you drift off into a state of replenishment and rest. And while you rest, your angels will be with you. And I'm going to tell you a story. So, in this episode, we are going to be exploring the fashion of the 1980s. And I just have to say that this theme flowed to me last week, and it has been with me ever since, and it is bringing me a sense of delight, some wonderful memories. And originally for this episode, I was going to read to you from something in the public domain, but this theme just seems so delightful. I decided to go ahead and dive on in to see what wants to be shared. So I should start off by saying that I am not someone who is into fashion. I am now in a time of my life where I dress for comfort. If you listen to the episode, All My Sofas, I share with you that I am now all about comfort and don't really keep up with fashion trends or, the colors of the season or anything like that. I really just dress to delight myself, which typically means I wear a bright colored top that I enjoy and really comfortable pants and shoes. But there was a time in my life where I loved fashion. And when I talk to you about the fashion of the 80s, just to set expectations, I am not sharing about this as someone who is going to give you an important historical perspective on the fashion of the 80s, because that is not my jam. But I am going to share with you about how the fashion of the 80s met me where I was during that time of my life. So, to set the stage, somewhere around 1982, so I would have been 20 years old, somewhere around there, it might have been a year earlier or a year later, I went to a diet program with my mom. For those of you who have listened, you will know that I have spent most of my life in a large-sized body. So up until that point, I was someone who had always had to shop in plus-sized clothing stores. Lane Bryant, the primary one at that age stage. And my mom and I wound up going to a program called Diet Workshop, which is similar to Weight Watchers. And it just happened to be a time of my life where I was able to stick to their program, and I released weight. I lost about 80 pounds. For anyone who has been overweight for most of their lives, you may have had a similar experience where there was this glorious moment when whatever you were trying worked for you. This worked for me. And I was young enough that my system responded. And so somewhere around 1982 or 1983, I was normal sized, not skinny. I was a size 14, but as a size 14, that meant that I could shop at normal-sized clothing stores, which back then was a really big deal. It might still be a big deal, but it's not a big deal for me. We've already established I have a very limited wardrobe and my needs are met, for which I am grateful. But back then, to be able to break up with Lane Bryant, I was overjoyed that I no longer had to shop there. And the shop where all of the other girls my age shopped was the Limited. Now, perhaps you are of an age where you also remember the Limited. It was a very popular clothing store at the time. It was a chain. They were in malls across the U.S. I don't know that they were international, but if you lived in the United States and you were of that age stage, you likely remember the Limited. The Limited's strategy, at least the way I remember it, was that they had a limited number of designs that they created for their store. So if you go to a department store, typically a department store will have lots of different manufacturers, so lots of different styles of clothing, a lot of options. The Limited might have 10 kinds of shirts and 10 kinds of pants and 10 kinds of skirts, and then they would make them across their size ranges and across different colors. And so when you went into the Limited, you knew what you were going to get, and in all likelihood, many other women in your age range would be wearing the same clothing but in different colors and paired up differently. So somewhere around, I don't know, between 1982 and for sure by 1984, I could finally shop at the Limited. And we're going to get back to that in just a second. The other thing that was happening at this time was the designer Norma Kamali introduced clothing with these massive shoulder pads that created this triangle shape, right? You had these massive shoulder pads so that your shoulders would be much wider and more pronounced than your waist. And I loved these shoulder pads. I loved Norma Kamali. I thought they looked so frickin' cool. And I wore those shoulder pads probably far beyond their fashionable life. I was hooked. So I'm going to get back to Norma Kamali, but I'm going to go back to the Limited now, because the reason this is important is because somewhere around 1983 or 1984, the Limited came out with these button-down short-sleeve shirts with these giant shoulder pads in them. So they were cotton shirts that would have to get ironed, and usually with a little bit of starch. And they were a little bit oversized, and they had these huge honkin' shoulder pads in them that could get removed. They were velcroed in, so you could remove them to launder them. And they came in all kinds of different colors. And if they were starched right, the collar would stand up just a little bit, which was super cool. And they were short-sleeved, but you would roll up the sleeves still, like 2 or 3 turns. And typically you would wear a tank top underneath the shirt. I loved these shirts, and I had them in many different colors. I know for sure I had a royal blue one. I had a yellow one. I had a white one. I don't remember what else I had, but for sure I remember those, and I probably remember them because I have pictures of me in them. And then I would pair them with different tank tops, and the tank tops were a redesigned men's undershirt. So it was the ribbed cotton that you might just see in a men's undershirt, but these were tailored for women, and they came in all different colors as well. And then those were paired with baggy cargo pants, again cotton with pockets, and you would sort of pleat the cuff and roll it up so that it hit you right about the ankle. And they had snaps. Okay, now I'm remembering the snaps. So you would snap them and pleat them and roll them up so that your ankle showed. So the outfit of that summer and beyond for me, because I wore this stuff all the time, was the cargo pants and the shirt with the shoulder sleeves with a tank top underneath, and the shirt would get tucked in. And as someone who had been in a large-sized body, to wear tucked in shirts was a victory that was profound for me. For anyone who has also been in a large-sized body, you will perhaps appreciate that milestone. And there would be a cool belt, because you had to belt your pants, right? A cool limited belt of some kind. I had a pink one, I think. And I don't remember anything about the shoes. The shoes clearly were not my area of importance because I do not have a lot of shoe memories to share with you. For the winter, the Limited introduced these shaker knit sweaters that had a deep V, and you would wear, once again, a tank top underneath it, or perhaps one of the button-down shirts. And if you wore one of the button-down shirts, it had the added advantage of then having the shoulder pads, so this shaker knit V-neck sweater would have the oomph of the shoulder pads. And again, the sweaters came in all different kinds of colors. I had a blue one, a golden, a black. I may have had a red. I don't remember the other colors, but I for sure had quite a few of them. I actually just went onto Google to pull up some pictures, and I was looking at them, and God, I loved those sweaters. I would buy those sweaters if they were available today. Those were so cute and comfortable and warm. So the winter outfit was the shaker knit V-neck sweater with something underneath it, again with the cargo pants or jeans. But I mostly remember the cargo pants. I will also say that I did go and read the Wikipedia about the Limited when I was getting ready to do this episode. And in 1982, the company that owned the Limited, or was the Limited, I didn't get that part straight, purchased Victoria's Secret and Lane Bryant. They also created another spin-off called the Limited Express, which had junior sizes. And as I recall, I could shop at Limited Express because some of their styles were cuter versus the Limited tended to be more business-oriented. But I was a bit challenged shopping at Limited Express because I didn't fit into size 13. For one glorious moment, I fit into size 13 pants, and they fit me for a few months, and then that era was over. the other thing that was in style around then were printed denim jeans. So I had a pair of floral denim jeans that were so cute. I had a pair of striped jeans that I loved. And those went really well with the shaker knit V-neck sweaters. So now let's go back to Norma Kamali, because she plays a huge part in my fashion journey of the 80s. So she is the one who brought in these giant shoulder pads that I loved so much. Her clothing was very expensive and was sold in the higher end retail stores like Marshall Field's. Now, for those of you who have been listening to the podcast, you may remember the early episodes where I shared with you about how I had an internship at Marshall Field's in their corporate video department, and I worked at their State Street store. And this was during the time of my Norma Kamali fixation. So whenever I was there, I would stalk the Norma Kamali section. Her clothing was so expensive and way out of my budget. But what would happen is, at some point, it would get clearanced out, the stuff that hadn't sold. And Norma Kamali's clothing was made to be profoundly oversized. So something that was a size small might fit me, even though it wasn't designed to fit me that way, but it would. And so for that beautiful time of my internship, I was able to purchase quite a few pieces of Norma Kamali. A few of them I still have. But let me share with you what I was able to purchase. I'm going to start with the most wonderful thing I was able to get, which was one of her formal dresses. It was a crushed blue velvet that was glorious. It had the shoulder pads, and it came down in these dolman sleeves, so these big sleeves, and then it caught up in a cuff with pearl buttons on it. And then it was kind of balloon shaped down till it reached right around the thigh area. And then it went into a tube that also had snaps on it so you could walk. It was one of the most beautiful dresses I had ever seen. And I could get into it, which was amazing. And I wore that dress for just about every Christmas party, every formal event that I would go to for years following that beautiful moment. And this dress had a life of its own. And here's what I mean by that. In the late 80s, when I was working for the Samuel Goldwyn Company, Samuel Goldwyn Jr. was producing the Oscars. And one of my friends at work was going to be working backstage at the Oscars, and she needed a dress to wear. And I said, "Oh, you can borrow my blue Norma Kamali dress," because it really was red carpet worthy at the time. And so she did, and she looked gorgeous in it. And this is the claim to fame of my blue Norma Kamali dress. Tom Hanks came up to her and touched the sleeve of her dress and said something I don't remember exactly what he said, but let's just say he said, "Oh, that's beautiful," or something. He complimented and touched in a very appropriate way the blue Norma Kamali dress. And I loved that. That delighted me. So my Norma Kamali dress got to go to the Oscars and was complimented by Tom Hanks. And then I loaned the dress to a friend who was going to go to the Grammys, and I loaned it to her as a potential Grammy dress. I can't remember if she wound up wearing it, but we never did rendezvous for me to get the dress back, and so the dress has gone into the ether somewhere. I don't know if she still has it or if it was given to someone else. I sometimes think about what happened to that dress because it was such a beautiful thing to wear. But I hope wherever it is living a good life and has traveled to even more wonderful extravaganzas. It served me well, and whenever I look back at pictures with that dress, it just makes me so happy. So that was definitely one of my great fashion finds. If I can find a picture of it, I will post it onto Facebook so you can see it. Another cool thing that I got of hers was this yellow rain jacket, and it was made of raincoat material like a fisherman might wear. And it had black checkerboard lining that was flannel, and it had the shoulder pads. Don't you worry, it had the shoulder pads, and it had a hood. At the time, I was going to school and working in Chicago, and so I would take the train downtown and then have to walk in the rain. And let me tell you, in this raincoat, nothing reached me. It was brilliant. And I wore that for a long time, and it moved with me to Los Angeles. But the yellow material started cracking badly, and so at some point I gave it away. Another thing that I got of hers was this gorgeous black floral dress. The dress went down to my ankles. It was beautiful. In the summer, I could just wear it as a sundress, and if I was going into the office, I might put a sweater or a blazer over it. And in the winter, I would put a black sweater, like a crew neck sweater, over it. And I would wear it with black boots. It was one of my very favorite outfits. And I still have that dress tucked away. So that dress still exists. I haven't, of course, worn it, I don't know, since the late 80s or early 90s, but I never did want to get rid of it. And the other thing I got of hers was she had these huge balloony suspender pants. Everything for her was oversized. And I fell in love with these pants. The thing is you had to be thin enough to get into them. And I couldn't fit into the waistband of them. But if I could get them over my hips somehow, they would fit me. So I had the brilliant idea to buy them and take them to a tailor and have them install a zipper. And ta-da, they fit me. So I had a pair in red and I had a pair in black. And I wore those all the time. And they worked so well with the shirts with the shoulder pads in them because the shoulder pads kept the suspenders in place. It was brilliant. And I think I may have a pair of those tucked away somewhere because I didn't want to get rid of them. And back to the shoulder pads in the limited shirts, I would take those out and put them into everything else. So I would put them into my sweaters. I repurposed those shoulder pads all the time until they were just no longer fashionably appropriate. That was a sad day when I had to retire my shoulder pads because they made me so freaking happy. The other thing I remember about the fashion of that time was influenced by the movie Desperately Seeking Susan, which I just looked up, and it came out in 1985. And it's a movie with Rosanna Arquette and Madonna. And a huge part of the fashion of that time was layering things that were not meant to go together, but looked super cool. And everything was oversized. I loved oversized. Oversized worked for me because, again, as a large-sized person who had lost weight, I still had, some roly-poly stuff going on. So the oversized stuff really worked well for me. So one of the things that I remember buying were oversized men's blazers from thrift stores. How many of you remember buying these? And the key to a good thrift store men's blazer was to roll up the sleeves to see what kind of lining was in the sleeves, because you wanted to buy a blazer that you could roll up the sleeves and the lining would show. So I would go to the thrift stores. I mainly remember Aardvark's on Melrose. And I would look for the size of blazers I wanted. And then I would start rolling up the sleeves to see if I could find one that had a lining that I liked. And I wound up finding one that served me for years. It was a black blazer. And the thing about men's blazers is they had a subtle shoulder pad, not a Norma Kamali worthy shoulder pad, but it had a little bit of a pad in it, so that suited me. And I seem to recall the blazer that I wore all the time had a white satin lining that would peek through. And then because it was the 80s, I had to zhuzh it up with a rhinestone brooch that stayed on that blazer forever. I think I found another blazer or two, but I mostly remember that particular black blazer as going into heavy rotation in my wardrobe. And I would often pair it with long strings of costume jewelry pearls, not real pearls, of course, but the kind you might buy, at Robinson's May at the time, or the Limited, of course. Because you go into the Limited and they would have all this styled with many layers of things. You would have the V-neck sweater with the camp shirt, right? The button-down shirt with the shoulder pads underneath, with the tank top underneath that, and the cargo pants and the belt and the long strand of pearls. And we all wanted to look like that. Well, you know what? That is a gross generalization. I wanted to look like that. Perhaps you did too. I don't know, but I for sure did. So I was all about layering this groovy stuff, with the collar sticking up just a little bit in the back. And I can't talk about the 80s fashion without talking about 80s hair. Because by now you must realize that 80s fashion was all about being really extra. Big hair was a huge part of 80s fashion. Giant, huge hair. Now you'd think this is great for you, Laurel. You have giant, huge hair. But what you may not know about me in the 1980s was that I did not want curly hair. Nowadays, curly hair is a huge market. The curly girl method, people teaching you how to manage curly hair, that did not exist in the 80s. Curly hair was not cool. Yes, people got perms, but the thing about getting a perm is you could then choose not to get one and your hair would be straight. I spent so much of my life trying to have straight hair. So I would blow my hair out, and they didn't have the cool things that help you get straight hair now. Those did not exist in my day. So I would spend a lot of time trying to blow dry my hair straight. And then I used a straightening iron, which is very common now, but back in my day, they were not heavily used. You had to go to a beauty supply store to buy one. And then I would set my hair in hot rollers. Like, it was an endeavor to try to style my hair. And then I would tease my hair up a little bit so it would be a little bigger. It was a whole thing. And so in many of my pictures, I have huge shoulder pads, a blazer, a rhinestone brooch, some pearls, knotted up, and giant hair. I was so groovin' with my bad self back in the 80s. I also remember that somehow this segued into the 90s as well, because in the 90s, the early 90s at least, I wound up transitioning to leggings with an oversized blazer and fake Doc Martens with big socks that matched my blazer. So for instance, I had this really cool oversized yellow linen blazer that had shoulder pads, not giant Norma Kamali shoulder pads, but mere mortal shoulder pads. And I would wear a black tank top with leggings, and the blazer came down to my thighs. And then I would have yellow giant slouchy socks. Oh my God, do you guys remember the giant slouchy socks of the 80s and early 90s? I love those. I can't believe I almost got through this episode without talking about them. And my fake black Doc Martens, and I was ready to go. I will say one of the fashion trends that I did not get to enjoy from that time period was the blue denim mini skirt with the white t-shirt with the shoulder pads. Oh, you know what? I think I have forgotten those. I can't believe I forgot those. Okay, well, I'm not going to go back and edit this in, so I need to amend my limited clothing to include the cotton t-shirts with the shoulder pads, because they had those too. I just remembered those, and I loved those. But I'm just remembering when I moved to Los Angeles, and I would be lonely on a Saturday night because I really didn't know many people there then. I would go to Westwood on a Saturday night, and Westwood Village was wonderful back then. There were movies and restaurants, and it was always crowded. And so I would just go and wander up and down the streets and look in stores, and then I felt like I was participating in the world. And the outfit that most girls, women, wore back then would be the blue mini skirt with the white cotton t-shirt with the shoulder pads, with the white slouchy socks, with the Reebok shoes. Oh my God, I'm remembering those now. With the two Velcro straps. Do you guys remember those Reebok shoes with the two Velcro straps? They went up to the ankle. And that was the outfit. That was the cool outfit for at least one of the summers. I didn't have the right body for a mini skirt, so that didn't work for me. So I think I probably did that outfit with shorts or something like that. Oh, it's all coming back to me now. The Reeboks and the slouchy socks and the t-shirts with the shoulder pads. How could I have left those out? Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I remembered, because if I remembered that in 20 minutes after I finished recording, that would have troubled me. So my 80s wardrobe included floral pants. I had a pair of black floral pants that I loved. I had boots. I loved boots. My cousin Susie, who listens to this podcast, once bought me a pair of awesome cowboy boots that I wore to death, that I loved so much. So anything that I could pair boots with, or an oversized sweater. I was very into oversized. So leggings with boots and an oversized sweater, and I was in love. So I have lots of pictures of sweaters and boots and leggings in my archives. And it was a time of my life when I loved being fashionable. And the fashion spoke to me. You know, I think as I got older, the fashion just no longer really spoke to me. And I segued into comfort. And, you know, it's not, when I worked in an office, even up through 2005, I cared about what I looked like. It's not that I didn't look nice, but I don't remember having a passion for clothing like I did back then. And also, I should say, at some point, I did gain weight and had to go back to shopping at Lane Bryant. But at that point, Lane Bryant's clothes were much, much cuter. So I still was able to buy adorable clothes at Lane Bryant. And I've never gotten out of shopping in plus-size clothing stores, really, since then. Which is fine, because it's a much different world now, and it's much easier to shop for clothes, and I just don't care as much. But those are my glory days of 1980s fashion and how it intersected with my life. And I love that I got to have those experiences. And I love that I got to wear outfits that I enjoyed and felt cute in and expressed myself. So this was my rambling down memory lane of the fashion of, oh my God, almost 40 years ago. Is that crazy that that was 40 years ago? Oh my God. Wow. So I have no idea what's in fashion right now. I just wear what I like. But I do have some of my old treasures tucked away in boxes in the attic that I just don't want to get rid of. They carry good memories for me. And somewhere out in the world, hopefully my blue Norma Kamali dress is living its best life. And so I hope for you, maybe this has brought back some lovely memories for you of a time in your life where clothing helped express who you are. And so, with that, my friends, I'm going to wish you sweet dreams. And I'm going to send you a whoosh of love. And I am so deeply grateful for you. So you rest well. I love you very much. And I'm grateful for the gift of you. You are precious in this world, and it is truly a blessing to get to spend this time with you. So we'll talk again soon. You be well. Thank you.